Hello friends, good evening.
Good evening,
Good
sir.
evening,
Good
sir.
evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening,
Good
sir.
evening, sir.
Shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, so we'll start with the revision session. We'll have to revise whatever we have discussed from our first class, correct? So we'll focus in this set of revision sessions. We'll focus on those first 8 chapters that we have already completed, right? Which obviously will cover majority or at least important aspects of our syllabus, right? Once we are done with our classes, post that in the second set of revisions we will again come back and revisit these plus all other chapters which we are yet to learn. All those things also we will be focusing on. Okay, so these sessions exclusive exam oriented. So how do we maximize our marks is what we will be focusing on. So which are the areas that we have to focus? Okay, that's what we will be having now. Here more importantly, obviously we have already learned all those concepts. Revising those concepts is important because we would have it would have been out of our memory, right? Because it's quite some time, right, since we have discussed all those things. So first we will confine ourselves to revising those concepts from our memory, and then we also have to look into some questions from examination point of view. So to what extent possible we will go through other things, you can obviously build upon that. Okay, you have to put in some additional efforts later. So for that purpose we have the revision material, right? I'll just brief about that revision material before we start. Now this has two parts. First part talks about the concepts, and the next part talks about the question bank. Okay, so in this question bank, till input tax credit chapter, whichever recent questions which are there from examination, important questions which are there in the study material, all those questions have been incorporated. Whereas from registration chapter till returns chapter, the other aspects, procedural aspects chapters, from in the recent past means maybe last 4 5 years, whatever questions have been asked from the examination, the entire thing have been compiled here. So it's like an exhaustive book. Okay, so if you read this, all possible questions that would be asked will be taken care of. So that is what we have to focus on. Okay, this book is extremely important for us from our examination point of view. Extremely important. Okay, fine then. So with this understanding, we'll start with the first chapter, GST introduction. There we understood why GST. We have discussed that it's an indirect tax, incidence and impact on two different people, correct? Then why GST? What was there earlier? We had compared cascading effect of taxes. We had discussed the examples, right? The features of GST we had understood. Even though it's one nation, one tax, we have multiple taxes in different states. State-wise GST taxes levied, right? Then we also discussed what are the taxes which are subsumed under GST, what are not subsumed. That is important. The first five uh, aspects that we had discussed there, not subsumed under GST. First one was alcoholic liquor for human consumption, on which state excise duty and VAT CST will be levied. Then petroleum products, on which central excise duty and VAT CST will be levied. And then we had tobacco products, on which GST is levied along with the GST.
Central excise.
State excise duty.
State excise on tobacco, if I'm not wrong. Correct. On narcotic drugs, along with GST.
Central
Central or
excise.
state? Central excise, I think.
Central.
Yes. Then last one was real estate sector, schedule 2 reference, after the cutoff date, before the cutoff date. These were the 5 points, five aspects, right? That is important. They can ask, right? 3 marks, 4 marks, they'll ask these questions. Extremely important. Then we also discussed about input tax credit there, place of supply concepts, right? It was like a summary that we did. Okay, so with that, we went on to the important chapter, which is supply. So in case of supply, what is the base on which GST is standing? Which is that section?
7.
Seven.
Yes, section 7 supply. We have majorly 3 subsections that covers section 7, 7.1, 7.1a and 7.2. Correct. 7.1 says supply includes. Supply includes what? 4 arrow marks there. A. Supply of goods or services or both.
For consideration.
Or
In
consideration. In the course
In the course of furtherance of
furtherance of business.
business. Perfect. Yes, CB. Supply of goods or services or both for consideration in the course or furtherances of business. Then 7(1) was about association with
Person or
Members for
individual.
its members.
perfect. Now here, what are the parameters that we have to satisfy?
For value.
All the 3 parameters. SCB, correct? So all the 3 parameters have to be satisfied. Then B talks about very good. Here, which is the parameter that we have to satisfy? Consideration. Very good. Import of service for consideration, whether or not in the course of
The furtherance of course of business.
business or not. So SC. Last one was
Supply without
Supply without consideration.
consideration. So only 2 parameters, yes and B, to be satisfied. This is specified where?
Schedule 1.
Schedule 1.
Schedule 1. Very good. So that is specified in Schedule 1. Then 7(1)(a) talks about
Classification.
which is given in.
Schedule
2.
Then 7(2) talks about supply excludes. Supply is specified in
Schedule 3.
Schedule 3. Yes. So this is what section 7 told us. So normally, to be considered as supply, we have to satisfy 3 parameters. Correct? Yes, C, B. So what are these? Yes, C and B. Yes is supply of goods or services or both. Correct? So there we understood it has to be either goods or services or both. So we understood the definition of goods. We understood the definition of services. Goods includes, or rather goods means all of
All movable.
All kind of movable property.
all kind of movable property. It includes
Actionable claims.
Actionable claims.
Anything
forming part of land.
very good, very good. Actionable claims and anything which form part of land, either severable
Or
at the time of supply. Correct, as per agreed. Yes, forming part of land, growing crops, trees, plants, etc. It should be severable at the time of supply or post supply based on the agreement. Very good. Then however, it will not include
Money and security.
Money and currencies.
money and securities. Perfect. This is the definition of goods. 2 clause 52.
Clause 52.
Excellent. Then services.
2 clause 102.
Clause 1
Clause 102. It says
Other than
other than goods.
Other than anything other than
Anything other than goods. However, it includes
use of
money. Use of money.
use of money.
Conversion of
Very
money
good.
for cost.
Conversion of money from one currency to another, from one denomination to another, only when
for consideration.
consideration. Yes. Excellent. Yes. However, supply excludes. Sorry, services exclude money and securities. We also discussed about the definition of money there. Correct? All forms of currency, it will be considered as money. However, if it is held for
numismatic.
numismatic value, then it is not money. Very good. Excellent. So that is about goods, services. Then we discussed about consideration. Consideration, any amount paid or payable, that could be, yes, it need not be in the form of money. It can be money's worth. Who should pay it?
Recipient or any
Recipient.
Very good. Recipient or any other person. Recipient or any other person can pay it. Right? That will be consideration, quid pro quo. Now here, in case of security deposit,
if it is non-refundable.
Non-refundable consideration, refundable, not consideration. Correct. Then donation received by charitable organization.
Should not form
If it fulfills three conditions,
condition.
it should be for charitable purpose.
Right.
Should
Nature
philanthropic,
of
not
gift or
advertisement.
donation.
Correct.
It should be made to an charitable institute.
Charitable organization. Made to charitable organization for charitable purpose. Purpose should be philanthropic and not
Advertisement.
donations
Nature
therein.
of gift or donation.
Yeah, it should be in the nature of gift or donation. Correct. Then B is in the course of business. What is business? We have understood, right? So that was the discussions about those three parameters. SCB, SCB. In this case, import of service, business condition need not be satisfied. So even if we are importing it for our personal purposes, if there is consideration, it will be considered as supply. Whereas under schedule 1, we had discussed 4 entries. Those 4 entries, if supply and business condition satisfied, will be deemed to be a supply even without consideration. First one we had was
Transfer.
Permanent
Transfer
of what?
Business
of
assets.
business.
Business asset. Full stop. No, there is furthermore.
Where
ITC.
ITC has been availed.
ITC is availed. Yes. On which ITC is availed. So only if ITC is availed, this condition. So if ITC is not availed on that asset, motor vehicle I had purchased, no ITC, blocked ITC. So when I'm giving that motor vehicle free of cost to someone else, no
Not
deemed supply.
ITC.
Right? Not a deemed supply. Perfect. So when you're selling that business asset for consideration, it will always be a supply. You need not refer schedule 1 because it goes for SCB.
718.
Correct. 7-1A. Very good. Similarly, second one was
related.
Supplies between related parties.
related persons, distinct persons. Very good. So there we learned those two concepts of related persons and distinct persons. Related persons definition also we had discussed. Employer, employee. We had the partners of the same firm. Then directors.
Family.
Yes. Family. Correct. Then controlling 2 entities or 1 person controlling, or rather entity is controlled by 2 or more persons, or 1 entity controlling the other entity. All those things get covered under related party definition. But the important one is family members. Members of a family definition says 2 things. First, always a family member who
Spouse.
Spouse.
and children.
Spouse, children.
Whereas others will be family members only if wholly or mainly dependent. Who are those?
Brothers.
Brothers,
Okay.
sisters.
Grandparents.
Brothers, sisters, parents, grandparents.
Grandparent.
They are only if they are wholly or mainly dependent comes under the definition of family. That is related persons. Distinct persons, in the morning class we were discussing about it, correct? Distinct persons, if they are in 2 different states, how many registration required?
At least one registration.
At least one.
One of the entities registered, they are deemed to be distinct persons. Whereas if they are in the same state, they are distinct persons only when
Both.
Separate registrations are there.
separately registered, separate registrations. Perfect. So that was about distinct persons. In case of related persons, distinct persons deemed to be a supply without consideration. Then third
Principal
one,
and agent. Only for goods.
principal and agent. What is covered here?
Only goods.
Very good. Only goods. Supply of goods. Correct. Supply of goods by principal to agent or vice versa. Here, who is an agent? One who issues invoice.
Issues the invoice
It is received in the name of agent.
Correct.
Name.
Then he will be considered as an agent. Only then he gets covered under schedule 1. In that case, whatever goods principal gives it to the agent, or whatever goods agent gives it to the principal, without consideration, that will be deemed to be a supply.
Deemed to supply.
Yes, that was third one. Last one.
Del creditor agent.
As an agent.
Import of service. Del creditor commission, again, that comes under principal agent only. In case of del creditor commission, what happens? He, along with supplying goods to the customer, he'll also give short-term credit transaction to maintain that, reach the target. Correct? For that, whatever interest he receives, that should be added to the value of supply. Why interest should be added? We have already learnt in value of supply 15.2. Correct? So import of service is the last one. Import of service, this is without consideration. In the course
Receipt
of
from related.
business, between whom?
Related party.
Related person.
Yes. Between related persons, distinct persons. Or establishment outside India, it says, right? Because it's outside India, they'll not call it distinct persons technically. Establishment outside India. Same entities. Okay. This gets covered under Schedule 1. So, with regard to import of service, we have two discussions. One, if it is with consideration, one without consideration.
Without consideration.
Consideration, what happens?
Always.
Always under.
Always
Always.
Always a supply. With consideration, always a supply.
Supply.
If it is without consideration, then I have to see
The
from
course
whom,
of business.
correct, from whom I have received it, or yeah, in the course, either of it you can check, no problem. From whom I have received it. If it is received from distinct persons, or rather related persons or establishment outside India, or others. If it is received from related purpose, for what purpose? In the course of furtherance of
business.
or others.
Deemed supply.
Only
Deemed.
here it is deemed supply.
Others not.
Other reasons
Other-
not to supply.
Not a supply.
Not a supply. Is that clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
This is Schedule 1. Correct. Then we discussed about Schedule 2. Basically, it talks about classification of goods and services. So in classification, main aspect there is whether transfer of title is happening or not. If there is transfer of title, it is
Supply.
supply of
Goods.
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 No transfer of title, supply of service, like giving on rent, lease, etc. Correct? That is transfer of title. Then we had one discussion with regard to land and building there in Schedule 2. Correct? Land,
Supply of
Not a
service.
supply.
not a supply because it comes under Schedule 3. Building is what we had that discussion. We have to look at the cutoff date. What are the two points, two timelines that I have to check?
Issuance
Date of issuance of CC or date of occupation. First occupation.
Completion certificate.
What are the two things?
date of issuance
Date of issuance of
First
CC.
occupation.
Date of issuance of
Completion
certificate or date
certificate.
of
Completion.
first
First
occupation.
occupation.
First occupation.
Earlier or later?
Earlier.
Earlier.
Whichever is earlier. That is the cutoff date. Now what I have to compare? Whether I have received any amount before that or not. If I have received a part amount before that cutoff date, what happens?
It is a supply.
Of service.
Supply. So supply of service, to be more specific. Very good. Only if we have received the entire consideration after that cutoff date, it is
It is
Not
not
a
a supply.
supply.
not
Not
a
a
supply.
supply.
It goes to Schedule 3. In all other cases, it comes to Schedule 2, supply of services. Correct. So
Services.
that is what Schedule 2, Schedule 3 comparison with regard to land and building. Land and building. Land will always be Schedule 3. Building, I have to check when the consideration is received. If entire consideration received after date of completion, date of issuance of completion certificate, or date of first occupation, whichever is
Earlier.
Earlier.
Sir, received before most.
earlier, whichever is earlier. If entire consideration is received after, what happens?
Not a supply.
Not a
Schedule
supply.
3. Correct. If entire or part consideration is received before that date, it will be a supply of service. Or part of the consideration. So consideration either in full or part. Part of the consideration received before this date, then supply of service. Did everyone understand this? Are we able to recollect?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is these are the main aspects in Schedule 2. There are various other things also. We also discussed, if you remember, about refraining from an act to do an act, or tolerate an act. Those three aspects. We discussed multiple points there. So the two conditions to be satisfied there was what? When it will be considered as
Agreement.
An agreement.
The consideration should flow from the agreement.
that is the second condition.
First
Consideration
condition is
should
there
flow
should be
from
an agreement.
There should be an agreement.
Should be a contract.
there should be an independent.
Independent contract.
Yes, it should not be part of another agreement, right? Like force majeure clause. No, there should be an independent agreement that you tolerate that, I'll pay you something. Only then it will be considered as tolerating an act to do an act or refrain from an act. Independent contract or agreement and consideration to flow from such agreement. Then it will be a supply of service. Else it will not be a supply. Understanding?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Similarly, we went on to Schedule 3. In Schedule 3, we had again list of items that we discussed. We discussed about employer, employee. So service provided by employer to employee or employee to employer. Covered here.
Employer to
Employer to
employee.
employee.
employee to employer.
Employee to employer. Salary. Salary who pays? Employer pays. Why? Because employee provides the service. Correct? So this salary is covered here. So employee to employer. Having said that, here we missed something. Service provided by employer to employee in the form of gift.
To 50,000.
Up to 50,000 in a financial
50,000.
year. Yes. Is exempt, correct? Up to 50,000 in a financial year. Perfect. So employee to employer comes under Schedule 3. Then next one was with regard to services provided by a court or tribunal established by law. So arbitral tribunal doesn't get covered here. It goes to RCM and exemption discussion that we had. Yes. Similarly, functions performed by MPs, MLAs, all public representatives, or persons having constitutional post, President of India, Speaker of Lok Sabha, Chief Justice of India, Supreme Court, right? All those constitutional posts, services of funeral, burial, including
Transportation.
of disease. So transportation of patient comes under exempt. Transportation of disease, Schedule 3, where we can connect, including transportation of deceased. Then we had sale of land, which we have already discussed. Sale of land and buildings subject to para 5B. Then the last one, which is more important for us, is actionable.
Actionable claims.
Other than specified actionable.
Yes, other than specified actionable claims.
Actionable claims.
Actionable claims other than specified actionable claims. Are we clear? Yes. What are these specified actionable claims? There are 6. Yeah.
Lottery, betting, gambling, horse racing, casinos, online gaming, money gaming are taxable.
Lottery, betting, gambling, horse racing, casinos, and
Online money gaming.
online. Yes, all these are supplies. To be more specific, supply of
Good.
goods, because actionable claims are goods. Correct? Supply of goods. And with regard to actionable claims, we have discussed multiple things that in case of time of supply, we discussed that exemption on receipt of advance is not available for actionable claims. They have to pay tax on receipt basis also. Correct? So there are various things that we will have. So this is about Schedule 3. Everyone till here?
Yes, sir.
Then we'll discuss the last concept in this chapter, which was Section 8. Composite supply and mixed supply. Yes. Composite and mixed. So with regard to composite supply, we discussed that for both to apply, there should be a combination of goods or services provided for
Single
Single
consideration.
consideration.
Single consideration is mandatory, correct? And if in that combination with single consideration, if they are naturally bundled and
Principal
Principal
supply
supply
there is
exists.
one of them is a principal supply. If these two conditions are satisfied, it is composite supply. If they are not naturally bundled or there is no principal supply, mixed supply. If it is a principal supply, what is the tax rate?
The
Rate
rate.
applicable to
Rate
principal
of tax
supply.
applicable to principal supply.
Principal supply. If it is a mixed supply,
highest rate.
Highest rate of tax among such
highest
supply.
rate among such supplies. Perfect.
Supply.
Highest rate of tax will be applicable. Are we clear till here, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That's all. Okay, these are the main points that we learned in this chapter, first chapter, correct? So can we look into come back to the material? We'll just glance through if there is anything that we have missed in this discussion. Yes, so 7.1 AABC, 7.2 and 7.1A, we discussed the definition of goods, definition of services, then GST, that is donation related 3 points. We discussed artwork sent to gallery as such is not a supply because there is no consideration, only when it is sold. Similarly, no claim bonus is not a consideration. It's just a discount that they are giving us because we did not agree not to make a claim there. Then Schedule 1, permanent transfer disposal, ITC being availed is very, very important. Supply between related persons, distinct persons, family definition. Gift by employer to employee more than 50,000 in a financial year in the course of furtherance of business comes under the exemption. Similarly, supply between principal and agent, point to be considered here is only supply of goods, not supply of services covered. Supply of goods between principal and agent without consideration is also supply. What constitutes principal agent relationship? The question that we have to answer is whether invoice for the supply of goods or supply of goods on behalf of the principal is issued by the agent or not. Whether goods being procured by the agent on behalf of the principal are invoiced in the name of the agent or not. If invoice in the name of the agent, supply, else not a supply. Similarly, import of service with consideration in the course of business or not, always a supply under 7.1b, without consideration, related party distinct person in the course of business supply, in other cases, not a supply. Similarly, Schedule 2, movable property, transfer of title, supply, else supply of goods, else supply of service, works contract and supply of food and beverage, restaurant services are supply of services. Similarly, sale of land, just now whatever we discussed. Yes, applicability of GST on liquidated damages, compensation, penalty. So all those 2 points that we have to consider, those 2 conditions. Liquidated damage only when those 2 conditions, independent contract, consideration flow from such contract. Check, dishonor, fine, no. The objective of this penalty is to discourage that act, not to tolerate that act. Penalty imposed also no. Same, discourage, not to tolerate that act. Forfeiture of salary or payment of bond amount in the event of employee leaving the employment, again that is for discouragement, not tolerating an act. Late payment, surcharge or fees will be added to the value of supply like interest, delayed late payment, late fees. Fixed charge for power, electricity, whether it is fixed charge, variable charge, it is considered to be a supply, but electricity normally will be exempt from GST. Cancellation charges, it is part of the composite supply where principal supplies transportation there, transportation service. So cancellation charges is taxable. Right. With regard to vouchers, we discussed this. We had a recent clarification. Since the recent amendment, it's part of the material. Now, where voucher is covered as a prepaid instrument recognized by RBI, then it will be to settle, it's used as a consideration to settle an obligation. It is considered as money. Money is neither goods nor services. Therefore, voucher can neither be goods, supply of goods nor supply of service. Whereas if voucher is not covered as a prepaid instrument, covered recognized by RBI, then voucher will be in the nature of an obligation on the supplier to receive it as consideration or part consideration and assure the voucher holder to claim certain goods or services specified. Therefore, it will be an actionable claim. It will give an actionable claim on that particular goods. So it is actionable claim voucher is neither of those specified actionable claims. Therefore, it comes under Schedule 3. Therefore, irrespective of whether it is recognized by RBI or not, if it is recognized by RBI, not a supply, because it's neither goods nor service. If it is not recognized by RBI, again it is not a supply because it is Schedule 3. Because it is Schedule 3. Okay, so vouchers can be classified either way, it will not be a supply. If it is a recognized RBI as prepaid instrument, recognized by RBI as prepaid instrument, then what happens?
Not a supply.
Not
Money.
a supply. Money.
Yes, hence it is not a supply. Whereas, hence it is neither goods nor service. Whereas, if it is not recognized as such, then it will be actionable claims. If it is actionable claims, it goes to Schedule 3. Following?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Similarly, we have non-supplies under GST Schedule 3, all those points which we have already discussed. Yes, you can just glance through it. Yeah, we had two more there. Activity of apportionment of co-insurance by lead insurer to co-insurer for insurance jointly supplied by the reinsurer and co-insurer. Similarly, services by insurer to reinsurer for which ceding commission or reinsurance commission is deducted from the reinsurance premium. So both cases cover, one is co-insurance, one is reinsurance. So that will be not to be considered as supply. Then section 8, composite and mixed supply. Two or more supplies naturally bundled in conjunction with each other, one of which is a principal supply. Tax liability shall be the rate of principal supply. Whereas in case of mixed supply, two or more supplies for single price, not naturally bundled, though can be supplied independently, still supplied together. Tax liability will be the rate applicable to that supply that attracts highest rate of tax. Everyone audible? Am I audible properly?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Following?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
How to determine whether services are bundled in the ordinary course of business? Various factors that we have: perception of the consumer. Majority of the service providers in a particular area of business provide a similar bundle of service. Nature of various services in a bundle of service will also help in determining whether the services are bundled in the ordinary course of business. Other illustrative indicators, yeah, there are various illustrations. In case of printing industry, we discussed, if we are giving the content and he is just printing the book and giving us back, it is supply of
Service.
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 Whereas he himself purchases those brochures or the letterheads or the envelopes, print the logo and give us
Supply of
Supply
goods.
of goods and
supply
services.
of goods. Correct, supply of goods. Similarly, in case of food supplied to patients, in exemption also we discussed, it's part of composite supply of healthcare service which is exempt.
Exempt.
And in case of retreading of tires, I give my old tire, worn out tire, he is retreading it and giving that tire back.
Service.
Supply of
Supply of
service.
services.
Whereas if he purchases old worn out tires, retreads it and sells it as retreaded tire to someone else.
Supply
Supply
of
of
goods.
goods. Very good. Similarly, supply of food and beverages at cinema halls. In that case, if it is part of the ticket itself,
Composite.
composite or mixed
supply.
supply as the case may be. In other cases, normally it is separate. So they are independent supplies. Supply of food and beverage should be taxed at restaurant service itself. Correct. So how do we determine whether it is a mixed supply? First, you have to rule out that it is not a composite supply. Then single consideration is charged for the entire supply. Then you will go with mixed supplies. Similarly, we discussed about earlier in exemption chapter, we have learned already that interest income is exempt. What about penal interest?
That is also exempt.
It is also exempt.
That is also exempt. It takes the nature of the interest. That's what we discussed, right? From 18th of August 2023, there is a RBI instructions which says you should not consider it to be penal interest. You should not call it penal interest. You should call it penal charges. Now what happens to this penal charges?
Then taxable.
It says it at the end of the day, it takes the same nature of penal interest, so it should be considered as interest itself. Okay, that is what the recent circular, this is Jan 25 circular. As per the instructions, instead of penal interest, they are to levy penal charges for non-compliance. Penal charges are not in the nature of payment or consideration for tolerating an act or situation. Rather, they are levied to deter such act. Hence, no GST is payable on penal charges also. If holding company purchases the shares of subsidiary company, will that be considered as supply?
Yes.
No, sir.
Transaction in securities. Securities is
Not.
Not as
Not
neither
supply.
goods nor services. Therefore, it cannot be considered as supply. Just because there is one SAC entry, that doesn't mean that you have to classify it as service, right? So, rather this tariff schedule, this SAC code cannot override the law. Law says securities cannot be a supply of goods or service. Therefore, purchase of shares by holding company of the subsidiary cannot be considered to be supply. Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This completes our discussion on supply. Okay, so I'll move on to the next chapter, charge. Okay, before that, till here, everyone following? Yes, we are able to
Yes, sir.
get whatever we are discussing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, fine then. So with that, we'll move on to charge, which is a section that
Section 9.
charges
Section 9.
Section 9, yes. Again, section 9 has 5 different parts. Correct. 9.1 talks about
FCM.
Yes.
forward charge. Very good. Section 9 charge. 9.1 says, mainly talks about forward charge. It says tax on all supplies. You have to levy CGST, SGST if it is intrastate, IGST in case of interstate. What is the
Interstate.
maximum CGST that we can levy as per the act?
20%.
20%. Similarly, IGST 40%.
40%.
However, on all supplies you can levy GST except
Alcoholic
consumption for human consumption.
alcoholic liquor for human consumption. For that, there was one more addition. We had discussed that which we will use in making alcoholic liquor for human consumption.
Spirit.
Undenatured, extra neutral. So basically, alcohol can be used as such, can be used for medicinal preparations as well. It can be used for human consumption. So if you add certain aspects there, as such alcohol cannot be consumed. They'll add various things and make it edible for human consumption. So once you add that, then you can have to use it for medicinal preparations, correct? So that undenatured extra neutral alcohol or rectified spirit, they also call it rectified spirit, that also is outside the scope of GST now. Similarly, subsection 2 talks about petroleum products, those 6 products there, correct? This till when it is outside?
Till the
Until
it is
it is notified.
Notified by the government. Very good. Subsection 3 talks about
RCM.
RCM. Supply of goods and services which come under RCM. For us, important is services. Then 9.4 talks about
Again, RCM.
again RCM. Very good. Specified unregistered suppliers, specified supplies, specified registered recipients. There are various conditions there. One such supply that we have in our syllabus is with regard to real estate sector, that concessional rate 1%, 5% with conditions. We will discuss about that. Yes, real estate sector. Then 9.5
e-commerce
E-commerce.
operators, notified services, transportation of passengers, Transportation of passengers.
Other
Any
than-
other motor vehicle,
Other than only.
Omnibus.
always 9.5. If it is omnibus, I have to see who is the supplier. If supplier is a company, no 9.5. Forward charge 9.1 apply. If supplier is other than company,
9.5.
9.4.
9.5. Yes. Similarly, second one with regard to accommodation service. Accommodation service, we have two arrow marks again. If again you have to check who is the supplier, correct? If supplier is registered, sorry, supplier is liable to register, not registered, liable to register. Then
FC.
FCM not liable to register. Then comes 9.5. Same way, housekeeping service, same about two concepts, right? This applies here as well. Supplier is liable to register forward charge, not liable to register 9.5. And last one there is restaurant service. In case of restaurant service, also I have to check two things. One, whether it is provided or located in specified premise or not. If it is located in specified premise, what happens?
9.1 apply.
9.1. Very good, excellent. Forward charge. Whereas if it is other than specified premise,
Declared. For example,
9.5. Now, what do we consider it as specified premise? Definition.
Place where accommodation is provided with the room charges not equal to 7,500. Not greater than
Room charge
7,500
greater
room.
than 7,000
or
per day.
Per
Correct. Exceeding 7,500. If if this restaurant is located in that place, then it is specified premise. Now there is one more addition, change in that definition.
or declared themselves as
declared by
Yes.
specified premises.
If you declare yourself as specified premise, declares as a specified premise. That could be a new entity or an existing entity. If you declare yourself as a specified premise, then also you will be considered as specified premise. Then FCM applies. So these are the 5 provisions, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There, what is important here is 9.3 services, RCM with regard to service, correct? So can I move on to that till here? Everyone clear?
So,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Yes. Coming to RCM. First one is GTA. Right? In case of goods transport agency, we have to see whether it is a specified service or not. If it is specified service, what happens?
RCM.
Specified service. What is specified service, or rather specified goods, not specified service, sorry, specified goods.
Exactly.
Those agricultural produce, defense related, relief materials, organic manure, newspapers, right? All those cases exempt. Yes, if it is other than specified goods, then I have to see to whom we are providing. If we are providing to a registered person,
RC.
RC.
not directly.
At the
If that registered person he is a regular registered person, then it is taxable.
Us.
Taxable. Under taxable, if GTA opts for FCM,
Then FCM.
FCM.
4 conditions to be satisfied. His GTA should be registered, he should opt for FCM, he should issue a tax invoice. In that tax invoice, he should declare that he has opted for FCM. Those 4 conditions are satisfied. FCM. He has 2 options under FCM.
12% with
Right.
ITC, 5% with
5%
Yes. 12% with ITC, 5% without ITC.
without ITC.
Whereas, okay, this is opting for FCM. Whereas if GTA not opted, then
RC.
RCM comes into the picture.
RCM at
At
5% with
5%.
ITC.
RCM at 5% with ITC.
With that.
Whereas in case of if he is TDS registered person,
Not taxable.
exempt.
Exempt.
Yes.
Exempt.
Whereas if he is unregistered, then I have to see whether they are specified persons or not.
Person.
Correct? Specified persons, factories, cooperative societies, body corporate, partnership firm, whether registered or not, casual taxable persons, all those specified persons, then same thing applies. It is taxable. With I have to see what
At 5% with ITC.
what does that GTA does. That's what we have to. Depending on that, it will be taxed. Whereas if they're other than specified persons,
Exempt.
Exempt.
this is about GTA. Did everyone understand this? Yes, clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. It's going inside or above the head?
Inside, sir.
No, seeing the reaction, I'm getting tensed. No, not required to be tensed.
No,
Okay.
sir.
No. Okay, fine. Next one. Legal services. Now, in case of legal services, we have to see who can provide that legal service. One is arbitral tribunal. That's a separate discussion, right? Service provider arbitral tribunal. Second, individual
Advocate, individual.
or firm of advocates. And the third category,
Senior.
senior advocate. Yes, senior advocate. Now, in this, I have to see whether they are providing it to business entity or others. Right? Business entity or others. Others can be other than business entity, central government, state government, union territory, local authority, governmental entity, government department, or in case of individual advocate or firm, another individual advocate or firm. All these are exempt, as we have discussed in exemption chapter. Right? These things we should be able to connect better because recently we have discussed in exemption chapter. Correct? Similarly, in case of business entity, you have to check what?
Turnover. In preceding financial year.
In which year?
Preceding financial year.
Yes, turnover in the preceding financial year if it is up to threshold.
More than threshold.
If it is up to threshold, what happens?
Exempt.
Exempt.
Very good. Very good. If it exceeds the threshold,
RCM.
CM. Now, turnover exceeding the threshold, turnover within the threshold, whose turnover I have to check?
Business
Entity.
entity.
Business entity? Yes, it's the business entity's turnover, not advocate's turnover. Right? So this is legal service. Then next important discussion that we had was sponsorship. With regard to sponsorship, that important discussion, sponsorship can be a hot topic in September exams because of that amendment. Here, now it is supplier specific as well as recipient specific, correct? Who should be the supplier?
Other than body corporate.
Wait, I'll just write it. Yeah, other than body corporate. Very good. Supplier should be body corporate other than body corporate. If supplier is body corporate, what happens now?
FCM.
FCM.
Very good. If supplier is other than body corporate, then you have to see who is the recipient. Recipient should be to come under RCM.
Body
Body
corporate.
Body corporate or partnership firm.
Excellent. Then it comes under RCM, else FCM.
FCM.
Yes. This is very, very important. Okay, sponsorship, do not miss. Then next we have is renting of immovable property. Next important one, renting of immovable property by government department,
SG, UT,
central government, state government, local authorities. In that case, when it will be RCM?
Others.
When it will be RCM?
Recipient is
Registered recipient. Registered recipient.
RCM, else FCM.
FCM.
Other services given by government will divide it into two categories. One, those four services: Department of Post, Ministry of Railways, service in relation to transportation of goods or passengers, service in relation to vessel or aircraft. those 4 specified service comes under
FCM.
FCM.
FCM. All other services, I have to see to whom we have provided. If we have provided to business entity
Business
or
entity.
others. If we have provided to others, straight away exempt. If you have provided to business entity, I have to check the
Turnover.
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 Turnover exceeding the threshold, turnover within the threshold. If it is turnover within the threshold, exempt.
Exempt.
If
Exempt.
the turnover exceeds the threshold, again I have to check 2 things there. What?
Consideration.
Very good. Consideration exceeding 5,000 in a financial year, consideration up to rupees 5,000 in a financial year. If it exceeds 5,000, what happens?
Then RCM.
RCM. If it is up to
RCM.
5,000, exempt.
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 Everyone following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is about business entity. Then we discussed about renting of immovable property by others. Rental services, 2 arrow marks. Residential property, commercial property. Other non-residential. Technically, the wordings that we have to use is
Other
non-residential.
than
Yes, residential, non-residential. Residential, supplier irrelevant. I have to see who is the recipient. Recipient is registered. Normally,
exempt.
RCM. Only proprietor using for personal stay exempt. Proprietor for personal stay. Then it comes under exemption.
Exemption.
Whereas if it is provided to unregistered person,
Exempt.
Exempt.
exempt. Whereas if it is a non-residential property, first I have to see who is the supplier. Very good. Supplier is registered.
Always
FCM.
FCM.
FCM. Yes. Supplier unregistered. Then I have to see
The
who is the
recipient.
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 If the recipient is registered,
RCM.
RCM.
Excluding
Composition deal.
very good. Recipient is registered. I have to see whether they are regular registration or composition registration. Excellent. So if they are regular registered dealers, RCM. If they are composition dealers or unregistered recipient,
not leviable.
Not leviable.
because
tax.
supplier is also unregistered. Yes, very good. Not leviable under GST. Clear about this rental?
Yes.
Then we discussed about services provided by director to the company. It comes under RCM only when such services are provided
Independent.
Independent directors.
in the capacity as a director. Right, in the capacity as a director. So in any other capacity like renting of immovable property, professional service, etc., doesn't get covered. Second, in the capacity as a director, he can provide his service in 2 capacities. One as an employee director, second as a non-employee,
Non-employed.
like independent director, etc. If he is providing it as employee director where remuneration paid, TDS is deducted under section 190,
No
2
RCM.
of the Income Tax Act, then Schedule 3.
Schedule 3.
Schedule 3.
If non-employee where remuneration is deducted under section 190,
4.
4J. 4J.
194J, then RCM
RCM
applies.
applies.
RCM applies. Understanding? With regard to right to use, under right to use, that is copyright, we have 2 discussions. One, music composer, photographer, artist. Providing, in such cases, providing the services, then in such case it is
Music composer.
Music composer or producer.
providing the service
RCM
to
always.
always, right? Providing the service to a music company or a producer or the like, then it is always RCM. Whereas in case of author, providing the service to publisher, 2 arrow marks.
Opt for SCM, then
To
FCM.
pay tax
Yes,
under
if
FCM.
author opts for forward charge, then FCM, else RCM.
RCM.
RCM. Correct. Similarly, we spoke about DSA, direct selling agent.
Direct selling.
If they have to provide that service to whom?
Body corporate.
Banks.
Banks, NBFCs. They are providing that service to banks, NBFCs. If such direct selling agent is a body corporate or partnership including LLP, then
FCM.
FCM. Very good. If DSA is others, individual, HUF, etc., RCM comes into picture. Then important discussion, one more, security services. With regard to security services, we have two discussions. First, I have to see who is the supplier. Supplier is
Body corporate.
body corporate. What happens?
Or as FCM.
FCM.
FCM. Supplier is other than body corporate, then I have to see who is the recipient. Recipient is
Recipient.
Registered.
registered.
RCM.
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 RCM. Recipient is unregistered.
FCM.
FCM.
Yes.
FCM. Again, here we have exception for
Excludes.
Composite.
Government departments.
composition dealers. Yes, and government departments. Composition dealers, TDS registrations. Understanding?
Yes, sir.
Same way. Renting of motor vehicle.
Motor vehicle.
Coming to renting of motor vehicle, first we have to be sure it is not passenger transportation service, it is renting of motor vehicle, and the cost of the fuel
Form part of the consideration.
form part of the
Fuel is
consideration.
part of consideration.
Yes, form part of the consideration. Then I have to see who is the supplier. Supplier is
Body
body
corporate.
Body corporate
FCM.
is FCM.
FCM.
Supplier
Supplier
is other than
is
body corporate.
Other than
Other
body.
other than body corporate.
See who
You
is.
have to check recipient.
Yes, recipient status. Here, recipient is
Body
Body
corporate.
Body
corporate.
corporate.
Or other
body
than body corporate.
corporate.
Or CM.
RCM.
RCM.
Else,
Other than body corporate. FCM.
even when I say FCM, again here also he has two options. 12% with ITC, 5%
Without
Without ITC.
with limited ITC.
Limited
There is a
ITC.
difference between renting of motor vehicle and GTA, correct? Limited ITC we have in renting of motor vehicle. Are we clear till here?
Yes.
Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, fine then. So these are some of the important RCM items. There are few more which we will anyhow, when we look into the material, we'll refer to. After that, we discussed about classification. Classification is based on HSN and SAC. HSN in case of goods, SAC in case of services. Depending on the classification, tax rates would be determined. Correct? Then we also discussed about that concessional rate of tax in the case of real estate sector. So for that purpose, we have to divide the projects into affordable housing projects, other than affordable housing, including
Commercial shops in residential complex.
commercial shops in such residential complex. Commercial shops in such RREP, residential projects. Now, affordable housing, what's the tax rate?
If
Based on square.
Based on the area.
So first is correct. What is affordable housing? It's based on the area and value. Area
Value.
depends on where it is. If it is a metro
Like-
city,
less than or equal
Less
to
than
60
equal
square
to
meters.
60 square meter.
60 square meter. Non-metro,
Non-metro.
Less than or equal
Less
to
than or equal to
90
square
square.
meters.
90
90
square
square
meter.
meter. Value,
Less than or equal to
Less than
45 lakhs.
45 lakhs.
Right, then it is called affordable housing. What is the percentage? What is the rate of tax?
1%. 1%.
1%. Very good. Whereas in this case,
5%.
5%. So there is one more condition here, right? That commercial shop cannot take up more than
carpet.
15%.
15%.
15% of the total area of
carpet
such
area. Carpet
total
area.
carpet area of such a complex. Perfect. So then it is 5%. However, this comes with conditions. First condition is
No ITC can
No
be
ITC.
claimed.
no ITC. Second condition is
80% of purchases should be made by the registered.
from B to B. Correct. 80% of the purchases should be made from B to B. However, if there is any shortfall, such shortfall should be paid under
RC.
RCM.
RCM. Shortfall under RCM. Is that clear? Yes. With this understanding, we went on to the last part of that chapter, which was section 10.
Composition level.
Composition levy.
Levy, yes. Now, composition levy, we divided it into two categories: 10(1) and 10(2), 10(2)A. Correct? 10(1) and 10(2) talks about three things.
Goods.
Manufacturers, correct? Manufacturer of goods,
Trader of
Trader
Others,
in
that is
goods.
traders in goods,
Trader
and
in goods.
restaurant
Restaurant
service.
services.
restaurant service. Perfect. This is other than 10(1)
Other
and
than
10(2).
10(1) services.
Basically, other services. Now, what is the tax rate here?
1%
1% of total turnover.
total turnover.
Very good. 1% of total turnover of that state or union territory. Whereas in traders,
taxable
1%
turnover.
1% of
taxable
taxable
1%
turnover.
of taxable turnover of the state or union territory. In case of restaurant,
5%.
5% of total turnover.
5% of total turnover. Excellent. Whereas here,
6%
6% of total turnover.
6% of total turnover. Now, to be eligible for 10(1) and 10(2), I have to check aggregate turnover. Aggregate turnover in preceding financial year should be up to
1.5 crore.
1.5 crore for 8 states, special category states,
75 lakhs.
75 lakhs. Whereas here,
50.
50 lakhs.
3 lakhs. If in the preceding financial year turnover is within these limits, then in the current financial year, I am eligible for composition scheme up to such
20 lakhs.
turnover limit. Right? Up to such turnover limit, 1.5, 75, 50, as the case may be. Are we following?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Same way. Once we are done with this, we discuss the definition of aggregate turnover: taxable, exempt, export, interstate, including distinct supplies, excludes inward supply liable for RCM, excludes GST. From this is the normal aggregate turnover definition as per 2.7. From this, what should I reduce?
Interest
Income
income.
interest.
Very good. Interest income. Interest income should be reduced from this to calculate the eligibility, to consider the eligibility. However, this gives us various ineligible cases. That means even if my turnover is within that threshold limit, I'm not eligible for composition levy. If I'm supplying interstate supply, if I'm supplying through e-commerce operator, if I'm manufacturer of notified items, manufacturer, right? Trader is fine. Manufacturer of those notified item, ice creams, bricks, all those things. Then CTP, NRTP, then supplier of service. Whereas in this case also we have ineligible categories, the same except the last one, supplier of service. Whereas under 10(1) and 10(2), even if I am providing some amount of service, I would still be eligible. Marginal supply of service. So what is that marginal supply limit?
10% of
turnover.
of previous year or 5 lakh, whichever is higher.
Very good. 10% of turnover of state or union territory in the last year, preceding financial year, or rupees 5 lakh, whichever is
Higher.
Higher.
yes, that is the limit under marginal supply, whichever is higher.
Marginal supply.
Exclude
Yes.
interest.
Again, very good. Marginal supply, when I am calculating 10% of the turnover, this turnover of the state or union territory excludes interest.
Excludes interest.
Yes, interest to be excluded. Interest to be excluded in the supply of service itself. Understanding?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is about the discussion that we had in charge. Okay, can we move on? Can we go back to the material and see if there is any points that we have missed?
Yes.
Yes, there are few RCM which would have missed, definitely. Business facilitator, business correspondent, I think we didn't discuss. Yes. So we'll go through that. So 9.1, tax on all intrastate supplies is CGST, except alcoholic liquor for human consumption, and now undenatured extra neutral alcohol or rectified spirit used for manufacture of alcoholic liquor for human consumption is also excluded from the scope of GST with effect from 1st November 2024. So that can be important. Don't miss this. Okay, don't miss this. They can just ask you in an MCQ. Tax on supply of petroleum crude, high motor spirit and natural gas. Tax upon notification by central government. RCM supplies as notified by central government. RCM supply of specified goods or service by unregistered person to specified registered persons. Tax payable by e-commerce operator on specified services. CGST or IGST on supply of following items has not yet been levied. That is petroleum crude, high-speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, and aviation turbine fuel. Coming to RCM of service, supply of service by a GTA in respect of transportation of goods by road, provided to specified persons. These are the specified persons: factory, society, cooperative society, any person registered under GST, body corporate, partnership firm, whether registered or not, including AOP, any casual taxable person located in taxable territory. Not applicable if provided to a government department having only TDS registration. Right, GTA is exempt. That's what we have discussed. Service provider, not provided, service provider has the option to select FCM. Has the option to go for FCM. Services provided by an individual advocate, including senior advocate or firm of advocates by way of legal service directly or indirectly. Here, legal service means, definition of legal service: anything provided in relation to advice, consultancy, or assistance in any branch of law in any manner, includes representational service before any court, tribunal, or authority. Provided to any business entity located in taxable territory, turnover exceeding the threshold in the preceding financial year. Service was provided by arbitral tribunal also, same business entity located in taxable territory with turnover exceeding the threshold. Sponsorship service provider can be any person other than body corporate. Service recipient shall be body corporate or partnership firm located in taxable territory. Services provided by central government, state government, union territory, local authority to business entity located in taxable territory with a turnover exceeding the threshold in the preceding financial year, not applicable to renting of immovable property, because we have renting of immovable property separate, registered person, Department of Post, Ministry of Railways in relation to aircraft or a vessel, transport of goods or passengers. All these come under FCM. Yes. Services supplied by central government, state government, union territory, local authority other than Ministry of Railways by way of renting of immovable property, any person registered under GST. Service by way of renting of residential dwelling, if it is provided to a registered person, RCM. Service provider can be any person. Supplier is irrelevant here. Recipient should be registered. However, if proprietor registered under GST takes a residential property on rent for personal stay, then no RCM, because that is also exempt. Renting of commercial property, that is anything other than residential dwelling, supplier should be unregistered person. Recipient can be any registered person other than those who have opted for composition levy. Then it comes under RCM. Happening. Then supplied by director, services supplied by director of a company or body corporate to the said company or body corporate, only services provided in the capacity as a director. However, no RCM if he is an employee. Services supplied by an insurance agent to insurance company, insurance business, RCM. Services supplied by recovery agent. Recovery agent comes into RCM only if it's providing that service to banking company, financial institution, NBFC. Recovery agent to any other person, FCM. Music composer, photographer, artist by way of transfer or permitting the use of copyright to music company, producer, or the like, always under RCM. Supply of service by an author by way of transferring or permitting the use to publisher. Author may opt for FCM. If not, it comes under RCM. Supply of services by members of overseeing committee to RBI comes under RCM. Direct selling agent should be provided to banks or NBFCs. Who should be the DSA other than body corporate, partnership firm, or LLP? No RCM if DSA is body corporate or firm or LLP. Services provided by business facilitator to banking company comes under RCM. However, if such services are provided in rural area,
Exempt.
exempt. Other than rural area comes under RCM. Similarly, for business correspondent, not the direct supply, the indirect one. Agent of the business correspondent to business correspondent comes under RCM. Agent of business correspondent and not business correspondent directly. Security services provided to a registered person. Service provider to be non-body corporate. Service recipient shall be registered person. However, it is not applicable to government department with only TDS registration, composition taxpayer. Similarly, services provided by way of renting of any motor vehicle designed to carry passengers where cost of fuel is included in the consideration charged from the service recipient provided to a body corporate. Service provider shall be non-body corporate, service recipient shall be body corporate. Services of lending of securities under securities lending scheme, borrower to pay under RCM. Additionally, apart from this, under IGST Act, import of services come under RCM. Correct. This circular, which we have already discussed, tax on service supplied by director of a company in personal capacity, such as renting of immovable property, not payable under RCM. Supplier of metal scrap. With regard to metal scrap, if supplier is unregistered, recipient is registered, it comes under RCM with effect from 10th of October 2024. Then tax payable by e-commerce operator, those 5 notified supplies which we have already discussed. Definition of specified premises, premise where supplier has provided in the preceding financial year hotel accommodation service having value of supply of any unit of accommodation above 7,500 per unit per day, or premise for which registered person existing or new has filed a declaration declaring the same to be specified premise. GST rate on real estate 1%, 5%. That discussion. Conditions also, ITC shall not be available, 80% to be paid for purchase from registered person, shortfall under RCM. At 18%, cement 28%. Composition levy 10, section 10, turnover for 10-1 and 10-2, 1.5 crore, specified category states 75 lakh, 10-2A 50 lakh. These are the 8 special category states. We have discussed the definition of aggregate turnover, excluding the interest income as well. Right? Rate of tax 1% of turnover, 5% of turnover, 1% of taxable turnover, 6% of the turnover. Ineligible cases, making supply of goods or service which are not leviable to tax, interstate supplies, supply through e-commerce operator, manufacturer of those notified goods, CTP and RTP, supplier of service. For services, that is 10-2A, all the 5 excluding supplier of service. Same as above, except last point. Marginal supply of service, 10% of the turnover in state of union territory or 5 lakh, whichever is higher, interest income is to be excluded from this as well. How do we opt for this scheme? If for a new registration, in the registration application itself, you can opt for composition levy. Effective date from would be the date of registration. Whereas if you're an existing registered person, beginning of the financial year, you can intimate. Before the beginning of financial year, you can intimate. From the beginning of the financial year, you will get that composition levy option. Validity, it will be valid till you withdraw yourselves because you did not satisfy one of the conditions. Voluntarily you withdraw or officer denies the option of composition levy. Composition levy has to be adopted by everyone having same PAN. One registration composition, one registration regular, not possible. Composition scheme cannot collect the tax. Composition scheme cannot claim ITC. Okay, these are the points that we have in charge. Everyone clear?
Yes.
Yes. So can I move on with the next chapter? Yes. The next chapter that we have is place of supply. Correct? For place of supply, we went to IGST Act. Here we learned 2 sections. Section 10 and section 12. Section 10 gives us guidance on place of supply of goods and 12 will be
Services.
services. In case of goods, we broadly divide that discussion into 2. Where there is movement of goods, what happens?
Place where movement
Place where
terminates.
the movement is getting
Terminates.
terminated.
Location where the movement terminates. Yes. Location where the movement terminates. In other cases,
Where the
Location of the supplier.
delivery,
location
where
at the time of
delivery or when made available.
made available. Location at the time of delivery or such goods handed over or made available. Similarly, we had 10(1)(ca), which is over the counter sales. This is applicable only for
B2C.
B2C.
very good B2C supplies. So in case of B2C supplies, this is what I have to check, right? What I have to check, if
Name of the state.
address is mentioned in the invoice, correct? If address is mentioned in the invoice, then location of the recipient. Here, when I say address,
State is sufficient.
State.
name of the state is sufficient. Then such location of the recipient. If address not mentioned in the invoice,
Location of supplier.
then location of supplier. Then we have discussed about 10(1)(b), bill to ship to. In case of bill to ship to, place of supply will be the location of
Third party.
Third
person. Yes. Location of third person. Then we also discussed about supply involving installation or assembly.
Where the
installation is done.
Where such goods are installed. Yes. Where such installation or assembling is done. Then we have also discussed about supply of goods on board a conveyance.
when it is taken on the board.
Yes.
Location where such goods are taken on board. Very good.
The goods were
Such
taken
goods
in
are taken on board. Correct. These are the points that we learned in section 10, goods. Then we went on to section 12, services. In case of services, we have 12(2), default rule, general rule, where none of the specific rule apply. How will I apply the general rule? 2 arrow marks. In case of B2B,
location of recipient.
location of recipient. Very good. In case of B2C,
If the
Where the address of recipient is location of recipient.
address of the recipient available, then location of the recipient. If address not available,
location of
Location of
Location of the supplier.
location of supplier. Location of supplier. Then specific, first one we had was service in relation to immovable property. What happens? B2B, B2C.
Where such
Place of supply.
properties.
Yes, there is no B2B, B2C required here, correct? Location of such immovable property. However, what if that immovable property is located outside India?
location of
Location of recipient.
Location of recipient. What if that immovable property is located in more than one state or union territory?
first check.
As per the agreement. Very good. Go with the agreement. However, if the agreement is silent, in that case, there
For
is no
the
agreement.
area of the
As per the such contract.
Rules. Then I have to go with the rules. Correct. As per the rules, there were 3 scenarios. If there are multiple immovable properties in multiple states,
Number of nights stayed in
number
such
of nights
immovable
stayed in
property.
such property. If single immovable property located in multiple states,
Area of such property in such
area.
states.
Correct. In case of houseboat,
Time spent in each state.
time spent by such houseboat in each state as declared by the service provider. Correct. These are the points that we learned in relation to immovable property. Are we clear? Yes. Then we went on to performance based. With regard to performance based, we had 2 arrow marks. One, We had all those performances like restaurant,
Catering,
Catering, personal grooming, fitness,
cosmetic and plastic surgeries,
plastic surgery,
cosmetic and plastic surgery, fitness
beauty,
centers, right? All those cases,
Where
place where services is
where
performed.
it's performed.
location where such service is performed. Very good. Location where such service is performed. Whereas in case of training and performance appraisal,
We have to see B2B or B2C.
very good. We have to check whether it is B2B or B2C. If it is B2B,
location of
Location
recipient.
of recipient.
location of
Recipient.
recipient. Correct. Whereas in case of B2C,
Where such
Where
performance.
it is actually performed.
location where such service is performed. Is that clear? This is performance based. What if this training or performance appraisal is done outside India?
Location of recipient.
Location of recipient.
No such concept in training and performance appraisal. Okay, there's no such concept. The discussion stops there. What happens if such training and performance appraisal happens in more than one state? Go with the contract. Again, no such concept in training and performance appraisal. Right? There is no such concepts. Whereas the next discussion that we have is event based. In case of event, we had two things: event admission,
Mission.
event
Organization.
Organization.
In case of event admission, what is the place of supply?
Where the event,
Place where the event is held.
where event is
Location where the event is held. Perfect. Where the event is held, that itself, irrespective of who is the recipient, doesn't matter. Whereas in case of event organization,
We have to check B2B or B2C.
B2B, B2C. In case of B2B, same
Location of
location.
Location of recipient.
In case of B2C,
Place
where
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 the
the
event
event
is
is
held.
held.
where the event is held. Now, what if the event is held outside India?
Location of recipient.
Location of recipient. Perfect. Now, what if such events are conducted in more than one state or union territory? Have to go with
Event based.
contract or
Contract.
agreement. If there is no contract or agreement, then
Number of services.
yeah, very good. Generally accepted accounting principles. It could be based on number of days, number of events, whatever it is. Correct. That is what it says with regard to event based. Perfect. Then few more discussions. What happens if there is a service on board a conveyance?
where the goods are taken on board.
We are
Services.
talking about service on board a conveyance.
First scheduled part.
First scheduled point of departure of the conveyance. Remember Kochi to what was that? Delhi, Kochi to Delhi train. Yes, first scheduled point of departure. Similarly, next one was with regard to telecommunication. In relation to telecommunication service, we have multiple discussions there. Correct? We had postpaid. In case of postpaid, what happens?
Location
Sorry,
of
before
billing
postpaid,
address.
sorry. We had landline, fixed lines. Yes. Fixed lines, what
Where device
happens?
is
Where
located.
the device
Where
is located.
devices is located.
Installed or located. Perfect. Whereas in case of wireless, we had two discussions: postpaid and prepaid. In case of postpaid,
There are three.
Billing address.
billing address is available. Such billing address. If billing address is not available,
Location.
Location of supplier.
Location of supplier.
location of supplier. Whereas in case of prepaid, it depends on how such prepaid recharge is done. Right? If you are doing it through a selling agent,
Address of such
Address of
selling.
Selling agent.
yes, address of such selling agent. Very good. Whereas if you are doing it with any other person,
The location where amount has been received.
very good. Where the prepaid is received. Excellent. Whereas last one, if you yourself do
Online.
it online,
Location of recipient.
recipient.
In
location
record
of
of supplier.
recipient in the record of the supplier. Perfect. So that is with regard to telecommunication service. Then we discussed about banking service. Correct. In case of banking service, if what should I check? In case of banking service, what should I check?
Is made to banks or other.
The location of the recipient is available in the records.
Yes. If recipient, the location of recipient is available, recipient details is available, then location of recipient. If location of recipient not available,
Location of supplier.
that DD, without having an account, I go and purchase a DD example, correct? Then we have insurance company. In case of insurance company,
They have to
B2B,
check B2B or B2C.
location of
Location of
recipient,
recipient.
B2C,
Location of recipient or record of supplier.
location of recipient
If
with the
address.
records of the insurance company. Correct. That's about insurance. Then we discussed about passenger transportation. Did we?
Yes, sir.
Yes, passenger transportation. We had two: pure passenger transportation, rate of passage.
Rate of passage.
In case of pure passenger transportation, B2B, B2C.
B2B.
B2B, location of
Location of
recipient.
recipient.
B2C,
Location where such person board the conveyance for continuous journey.
continuous journey. Location where the recipient boards the conveyance for a continuous journey. For a continuous journey. Whereas in case of rite of passage,
Address is available.
General rule.
Address is available, such address, if not, location of supplier. Yes. Similarly, goods transportation. In case of goods transportation, also have to check
B2B or
B2B, B2C.
B2B, location of
recipient.
B2C.
Where goods
Location of where such goods are handed over for transportation.
Yes, where goods are handed over for transportation. Yes, very good. Now, apart from that, we discussed about advertisement service to government. They're depending on how we have to go with the contract. If contract is silent, then depending on the how advertisement is provided. Advertisement provided on hoardings, on trains, on railway tickets, on through what do you say, internet, through messages, right? TV channels, all those theaters, right? All those discussions we had there. So depending on the requirement, the ratio changes. Right? These are the main concepts that we have. Okay, most of it I think we have already covered here. We'll just go back to the material if there is anything that we have missed.
The billing address, shipping address.
Sorry?
Billing address and shipping address.
Bill to ship to be covered, no? Bill to ship to location of third party.
In e-commerce.
In e-commerce, correct. Delivery address and billing address, correct. You're right. So that one circular we have missed, correct. Good. Supply involved movement of goods, we have discussed. Bill to ship to we have discussed. Not movement of goods, over the counter, installation or assembly, goods supplied on board a conveyance. Then place of supply of services, general rule we have learned, service in relation to immovable property, restaurant, catering, personal grooming, fitness, beauty and health service including cosmetic and plastic surgery, training and performance appraisal service, service by way of admission to events, organization of events, transportation of goods including mail or courier, passenger transportation service. This we have discussed all this. Service supplied on board a conveyance, telecommunication, banking and other financial service, insurance service. Then advertising service by central government, state government. Yes, everything we have covered. Telecommunication service, fixed lines, postpaid, prepaid, through selling agent, others, or online recharge, right? All those things covered. Yes. Clarification regarding place of supply in specified cases. You want to take advertisement by displaying advertisement on hoardings. If you directly contact the owner of that hoarding and take that, it will be in relation to immovable property because the hoardings will be on the immovable property. Whereas if you take the help of an agent, agent will help you to display the advertisements on the hoardings. Then this is pure advertisement service. For advertisement service, there is no specific rule. So go with 12(2) general rule. That is what this circular tells us, depending on how the arrangement is done. Right, interstate supply, intrastate supply. Yeah, before that, yes, the delivery address and billing address. In case of e-commerce operator, 10(1) CA says address should be there in the invoice. Whatever address is there in the invoice should be considered. What if delivery address and billing address are different? Which address to be considered?
Delivery address.
Address.
Delivery address.
Address.
Delivery address or billing address?
Billing
Delivery.
address.
Billing address. Billing address.
Billing or delivery? 10(1) CA
Billing, sir.
focuses on
Billing.
billing
Delivery address.
or delivery?
Billings.
Billing address. Yes. So that is billing address. Focus on billing address because that's the person who will be making the payment, right? So billing address have to be considered. Interstate supply, supplier, location of supplier, place of supply, two different states or union territory, same state or union territory, intrastate supply. Okay, that's the difference. And we have also discussed about territorial waters, supplies in territorial waters. In that case, either the location of supplier or place of supply, we have to go with the nearest baseline where such supplies are made in the territorial waters. Correct? In that state would be the location of supplier or place of supply, as the case may be. Are we clear with these? So we have discussed 4 chapters. No doubt, introduction is a small discussion, but still, for the sake of numbering, yes, we have discussed 4 chapters. We have 4 more chapters to be discussed. 2 small ones, time of supply and value of supply, and 2 important ones, ITC and exemptions. So these are the 4 chapters that we have to cover, which we will continue in the next class. Okay, so we'll stop for the day, go through all this, whatever we have discussed, and we also have problems. Okay, go through those problems in the question bank. If you have any doubts, we can discuss, continue in the next class. Okay, we'll discuss in the next class. Yes, thank you. Tomorrow at 6:15, change in the timings. Right, it's not same time at 5, it is at 6:15. Yes, we'll continue the next class. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir.
Hi, sir.